Hello, hello, hello. Right, I'm going to assume that sound is working and we'll just make a start. Hello there, whoever's joined, do say hello. Do say hello anyway when you join on the text link there. It's always good to know who's around, even if you don't add anything in on the questions and stuff. It's great to see you here. So it's a Monday, it's 3:30. I can't believe it's already 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. It's amazing, the day has flown past. Oh, JF, welcome. Hey, yay, good for you, good for you. Excellent. Always nice to know you're there. Might be a good one for you today, JF. If you've got some questions about the dowsing, just fire away, because we're just going to look at some basic questions. I've got about 5 or so here that I've been asked over the last week, and we're going to be taking a look at those and sort of pulling those apart a bit. They're classic beginner, early user dowsing type questions, so we'll look at those a little bit. And just before that, obviously, a little reminder, if anybody joins throughout the piece or the playback, hello, Nathan, did it again, LAS, hi, nice to see you. Nathan, good to see you still using Jackie's channel name, that's great. I just think it's hilarious. Anyway, so yeah, what I was saying was, do remember to subscribe if you're watching this on playback after the event, if you're into wanting to work with your subjective experience of reality. We're looking on this channel at the individual aspects of our own relation to the world around us and the spiritual aspect, so our relationship to the management upstairs. The management is the term that my dear old mentor Hamish Miller used to call everything in the spirit realm. He used to refer to it actually as the higher management, so it was the management, the real high echelons of God, if you like, the ultimate creator that you would go through and meet eventually. I tend to use it in a more general sense. So that's what we look at on this channel. If you like that sort of stuff, click on subscribe. Right, that's the admin done. Right, so you may have noticed, or you may have had a chance to watch the video that I did the end of last week on Friday, which was called Dowsing Rods. Is it just guessing? Something like that. And the reason I made that little video was because something that had been kind of sitting at the back of my mind for some time. Hello, Nancy. Nice to see you. There you go, 7:30 in Berkeley, California. Fantastic. I hope it's sunny over there. It's in the middle of June here. It's supposed to be summer, and I've still got millions of layers on. Anyway, so yeah, so I made this video about dowsing and guessing, and it was sitting at the back of my mind because quite often on workshops, whether they're ones that I'm running or other mediums, if you like, are running, and we get onto dowsing, one of the exercises that we do is to split the attendees into 2 groups, and one group thinks of an item, and the other group has got to douse for it to see if they can identify what it is the first group is thinking of, right? And very often, most of the time when that happens, the whole room just descends into a guessing game. It just ends up, people have got rods and pendulums, but they're just clearly just guessing arbitrarily. And that had been sort of bothering me, sitting at the back of my mind for some time. So, really what all this comes down to is coming back round. And some of you might not like this, because some of you, it's nice to think of the spiritual connection as being something special. And if there's a kind of a feeling that we want to be as sensitive as possible to communicate with spirit as well as possible, because not only does it help us, which it does for sure, because we get more guidance once we're in alignment with the flow, of course, and we sit on it nicely, and supposedly life is less traumatic. Now, that's not actually strictly true, but it's a different way of coping with life. But really, I suppose what I'm getting at more and more, and I know some of you will understand this. Dixie, good day, good to have you. Always good to have you here. Some of you will kind of get this more than perhaps some of you others. This is not special. Okay, this is not special. Dowsing is not special. Every single person on the planet can dowse. Every single person on the planet uses their intuition and connects to varying degrees with the intuitive, subjective aspect of self. Now, the reason we think it's special and the reason it is, to be regarded as sacred, because for sure it is sacred, same as life is sacred, is because when we're young, we're just not taught about it. So therefore it becomes a hidden thing, a hidden thing, and so in some places a taboo thing, and in some places something to be very scared of. Now we're going to be touching a little bit on attachments and that sort of aspect a little bit later on. And I want Nathan in particular to remind me to talk about that as we get, because I'm going to leave it until towards the end. But there's a lot of fear surrounding spiritual work. I actually came across a video by somebody that I really respect and admire. It's a UK healer called Matthew Manning, and I've mentioned him in the past. Hello, Stevie. Good to see you. And Matthew, when he was a young lad, actually in his teens, he had a lot of what he basically refers to as poltergeist activity happening in his world, and there were very, very many witnesses to that activity. Now, Matthew is an incredible person, as you would expect. He's grown up to be one of the UK's most sought after healers, effectively. But he was giving a talk. There was a video of him giving a talk on YouTube, and he was saying that actually when he tried to give a workshop, Billy, hiya, how are you doing? In Germany one time, he was prevented from doing so by the police. I mean, unbelievable. This was a workshop on healing, spiritual healing. Now, I don't know the exact details of it, but can you imagine why? And we're not going to go into the details of why, but the fact is that a healer using spiritual energy, his connection to the ultimate creator, was forbidden by the state to give that workshop. It's extraordinary. And Matthew, actually, what was interesting about his reaction as he was telling that little story in the video was saying, he was quite alarmed by the way that things seemed to be going out there. Now, in that sense of the state wanting to be so controlling. Now, we all know that if we look around YouTube, we can find lots and lots of videos that actually give the impression that we are all subject to varying forms of state control, and of course we are subject to varying forms of state control, but actually most of the state control that we're subject to is completely sensible and is practical in terms of structuring a society to exist. Now, yeah, I know some of you won't agree with that. Some of you will feel no, there's far too many rules, there's far too many regulations. But actually the fundamental point that I'm trying to get at is that society and global society needs a structure within which to operate. And somewhere, hello Summer, nice to see you again. Somewhere within that, there is a disconnect, and the spiritual aspect of being is rejected from that. Now, the reason for that is obvious, of course, is because that is the root of our individual power. And that's why I do the introductions, and in the recorded videos, I'm trying to get them to a catchy little phrase where this sort of rambling introduction that I say about, welcome to the channel, this is the place that we can explore our subjective connection to reality. I'm trying to get that to a catchy little phrase. So if any of you can help me with that, then that's great. But it's so important, because this is absolutely our power. It is the seat of our power. Our heart is the seat of our power, and our heart is our connection to spirit, the greater connection to spirit. We are, of course, all the process. It is the process, the full self. Now, if that's a little bit of a rant to start with, it's because I want to make it very clear, and that is what this channel is about. It's about taking control sensibly and from a heartfelt, heart-led basis of living. And I need to repeat that every time, because there's a lot of people that come to the channels. You guys are a bit different because you're regular partakers of this thing that we do that we call Monday Moments. But for people watching it on review, on playback, that might only be the one video they watch. And you know what? I think it's so important to actually adopt one's power now. And the power, part of that power is in understanding the difference between the impression of global society and all this crap that we see out there, and actually our own true self, our true heartfelt 100% focused individual being. The importance of that is because that is your connection. That's your real self that has come down here to learn, to live, to enjoy the life that you have been given and the opportunity that you have agreed to, and all those things and all those trials and tribulations that you agreed to before you came down here. That comes through the subjective, through the heartfelt connection to the wider picture of spirit and to the management and to your guides and to your subtle realm self. The scenario, the theatre in which you operate is abundantly clear, because that is the oppressive nature that we feel and we experience from the outside coming in. These are the things that we fight. But don't ever forget that what we fight is what we have created, but we have agreed to it all. Hiya. Yeah, wonderful. I don't even know what that means, but it's fantastic. Thank you. So please just go with that and understand that. Now, we operate within the boundary of this world, and the foundation stones of the boundary of this world are created from quantum physics. You know, the quantum physics, quantum theory is our current best understanding of where all of this stuff that appears to be out here, that is of course out here, but is also in here, comes from, and how it behaves. Quantum theory. And never forget, it is theory. It is actually a series of theories, some of which can be proved mathematically. Aspects of all can be discussed and talked about in that sense. So the reason, again, that I mentioned the quantum physics, I don't want to try to pretend that I understand it, but there are elements of the explorations of consciousness that really do make sense once you start to really get an alignment with your true self. So they start to, in discussions around some of the physics, you can actually see how there are echoes of one's creative potential in existence. Billy, hi, let's just have a quick look. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what I should be doing. I created a trailer a little while ago, and you know what? It just kind of bombed. And it's a nice little trailer, but it's not really doing what it should be doing. So I'll look at that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I can't say your name, isn't that terrible? Pip. I'm going to call you Pip. It's important to remember, because all of that stuff, it's important to remember, because you need to work on it, to take each step as it comes, each step. Now, I know Billy doesn't like us talking about mindfulness, but the reason that mindfulness is powerful is because it enables us to stop and to assess what is the information that's coming to us from our real true self that we are absolutely in the involvement of creating, and what is just bombarding us from the outer shell. You know, 7.5 billion souls on this planet, most of whom are not in alignment with their true selves. We all are, and we're not just saying it's somebody else, we all are creating quite a mess to live through. So the more of us that can actually step forward in alignment one step at a time with our true selves, then the better. Right. Clearly I had to say all that. I don't quite know why, because I want to get onto this, coming back to dowsing and guessing. So guessing is a natural part of being a human being, right? I mean, and all of this stuff is a completely natural part of being a human being. But the true power comes in from being aligned with your soul self. It's alignment and sharing. And I think, personally speaking, this will come back into a second, the hardest point is, thanks, Billy. The hardest point is to actually, for us all, to realize that it's not about being human and accepting humanity for all its foibles, our own humanity with all its foibles, and kind of, okay, so that's that, and we've got our foibles, and then doing all the spiritual stuff as well. It's actually about trying to integrate the two, and that's a really hard step to take, I think. And that really, I guess, is what, you know, we spend lives and probably lifetimes trying to actually achieve, is that harmony coming from the physical realm. Because once we've achieved it, of course, you then step on and move up the energy level. So there's no need to return back to the human level. So guessing games and dowsing. Sorry, guys. Look. Okay, good. Thanks, Nancy. That's great. Any questions directly? Just ask away straight away, right? Digsy, do you think all of this stuff that goes on in the world is meant to be playing out as it is, or is everything off track? No, I go along with. I go along with the, it's all as it should be. It's always all as it should be. But that doesn't mean to say that we don't have the opportunity to try to do something about it. Because it's our choice how we choose to do something about it. It's the most common question I get asked is, does this mean what am I saying? Am I saying don't take up arms and go and protest in the streets against what one perceives to be tyranny? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, look inside, evaluate first to see where the tyranny, quote unquote, that one suspects or one sees or one feels, where is that? What is that symbolic of within? And then once you've done that and you have evaluated your inner world, then you can make a choice. Do you then want to take up arms and join everybody and fight directly? And therefore, what you'll be doing as you step out onto the streets, for example, at a protest, is having potential violence, potentially, maybe not, coming face to face within your world. Whereas before it was at arm's length, it was an impression of. But as soon as you make that choice to step out, and I'm not saying it's the right choice, I'm not saying it's the wrong choice. It's just that then it is in your world, your direct world, and that is your subjective experience. Because every time you face up to authority and you face your fears of physical violence, maybe, then that is an issue that you are clearly dealing with, right? So it is less about the tyranny, it is more about the subjective interaction. Maybe that makes sense. Lovely. That's really nice, Billy. Yeah, that's right, LAS. It's our choice, exactly. 7.5. Did I say? I think I said 7.5. Yeah, right. That's great. Billy, you got it. Yeah. Yes, that's right, David. Yes. Yes, it did. Let me tell you about that. We'll sidetrack onto that one, David. Let me just read JF's comment. Yes, that's right, JF. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys. Right. David has asked, yes, it was intuition that brought me here. And this has to be, let's see if I can get through this without bursting into tears. This is the sort of place that I always wanted to live. Right. Okay. So something that you won't read anywhere, because I've never said it to anybody before. Right. So the way my family was structured, yeah, we're going right back to childhood. The way my family was structured was that my dad and our family, we lived in the southeast of England. But my dad's brother chose, when he was much younger, to move up to the north. So he actually had a house in the Lake District. And so me and my brother would visit him. Hello, Joseph. Hey, hi, nice to see you. Good to see you. Thanks, Billy. That's great. So we would travel up to see my dad's brother and his family, and there were several cousins, and they lived in an absolutely idyllic place. It was just outside Kendal in the Lake District, so it's sort of Southern Lakes, for those of you who know it. But it was idyllic because my uncle and his family were the loveliest, sweetest people you've ever met. And they were surrounded by absolutely blissful natural countryside. That's all I can say. Yeah. And as a youngster, as a young man, caught up and living in suburbia, which is just, sorry for anybody that lives in suburbia, but I really didn't like it. This place in the north was idyllic, and so my heart was always drawn to live in the countryside. And we got to a stage when my boys, the two boys that my wife and I had as a family, when they got old enough, we got to a stage where actually my wife was, and I think I told this bit before somewhere, my wife was at a stage where she was getting very deeply pissed off with her job. My business as a video producer, as a corporate video producer, was disappearing down a drain. I got far more interested in the spiritual stuff, and I really simply was not interested in doing the corporate work. I worked for Ecotricity, and that was the most interesting work I'd done in my 30 years or 25 years as a video producer, because it was sort of ethically based. Anyway, moving on. So I was losing money basically all the time. So we had massive debt. So we had to sell our house and move out of the beloved house that had completely changed our lives. That was the house that we'd lived in for 15 years and had changed our lives by the spirit of the house making contact with us, the guardian energy personality of that house making contact with us, changing our lives. So we said to the universe, as David had pointed out, we've ended up where we are now because of intuition, but we actually said to the universe, just completely blankly and openly, my wife and I, where do you want us? Where do you want us? We don't care. Anywhere in the world, where do you want us? We've been looking at Ireland, maybe. We've been looking at South Africa, of all places. We've been looking at Australia. Do they accept British immigrants in Australia these days? I don't know. We didn't look that far. What happened? Nikki, my wife, likes to work, and she needs to work in terms of our income. And so we said, right, so what's going to happen is that clearly jobs will come up where the universe wants us. And straight away they did. Straight away they came up. They were showing in Leeds. Canada, that would have been a good one. Damn, if I'd thought of that. So Leeds, which is a northern city. And we came up to Leeds. She got the first job that she went for out of these Leeds-based jobs that that had come up. And we came up here to look for somewhere to live, and obviously it was going to be a case of renting to start with. It just was. Our house that we were selling had been on the market for 2.5 years at this point. So you can imagine the frustration, and that's partly why we'd got to that point of frustration of saying, universe, just tell us what you want. Where do you want us? And of course, at that point, of course, we had also got a buyer for the house. It was all synchronicity, just fell into place. But as soon as we'd surrendered, I made that video a little while ago about surrender, the power of surrender, and what is it really? So we got a buyer for our old house. We didn't particularly want to leave, but it was going to make sense. We come up to Leeds, and Leeds, I discovered in my ignorance, was right next to the Yorkshire Dales, and the Yorkshire Dales are absolutely gloriously fantastic, and they are just countryside. And not only is it just countryside, it is also so much of it, particularly where we are now, is actually very little changed. I mean, as much as any landscape over thousands of years, it is very little changed. So the natural energies of the earth, the actual energy of the countryside, of the natural nature energy, that's all I'm trying to say, is flowing through here in such tangible amounts. But, right, we found this house. It's a longer story than this, but I'm getting to it, David. You've probably fallen asleep by now. We found this house. We came to view this house. We put an offer on this house. This house went to tender, so sealed bids. And what that means basically is that everybody over here in the UK, you just write down a number. What can you afford for the house? And so everybody writes down numbers. My wife and I had a limited amount of money available. We put down our figure, and it was nowhere near. We knew it was going to be nowhere near what other people did, and it was way off. It was like 80,000, 90,000 pounds less than the first person that got the house, because this house went. And so we looked for another house. And during all this time that we were looking, these several months, my dear old mum, who at that time had got dementia, she was on her way out. there's a story in that too, but we won't go into that. What basically happened was that at the same time that my mum passed away and left a little bit of inheritance, this house came back on the market, and we approached the agent and said, what's going on? And they said, well, the guy doesn't want to go through the same process again. How much can you offer? What's your revised offer? We gave her a slightly raised revised offer, and the owner accepted it, and so we moved in. So therefore we are only living here because the synchronicity of the universe and my mother passing away at that time. But this is exactly the sort of house that my mother would have absolutely loved. Absolutely loved. She was an artist. She was an artist, David. She was a watercolor artist, and in fact, and a very good one. She was a commercial artist as a woman in the 50s, which was unusual in itself. And she actually worked with in a studio at one point with can't remember his name. Anyway, he went on to become a very. That's right, Dixie. It's all about that alignment and that synchronicity, and realizing that, despite the frustrations, things are going to align at some point if they're meant to. Can't remember. There's a. I was talking about an animator that my mum shared a studio with at one point. But anyway, it doesn't matter. She was a great lady and a very independent lady, and she would have loved this place. And her presence is still very much here, I have to say. So, so summer. Yeah, let's go into that, right? Yeah, she would, Billy. She would. Yeah, she would. Okay, so no, that's right. I'll see what I can do about the watercolors, David. Right, summer. Let's come back to this one. So, the spirit of the house. Yeah. So what I need to be clear about this, and I was talking to a couple of my mentoring students about this during the week, was that there are three aspects to any property. So you've got the spirit of the house itself, literally the fabric, like these walls, the construction. The same way that you've actually got a spirit of a car as well. The fabric of the car has a spirit, has an energy, right? Everything does in that kind of shamanic way. So the house has an energy itself that you can talk to using dowsing. I would suggest, Summer, that if you haven't done it yet, try to start a conversation using dowsing. Just hold the rods and ask some questions. Just direct your questioning to whoever, to the personality. In the first instance, well, bear with me a second, right? Because you either direct it to the house or there's a guardian energy personality. And that, in a way, is actually the guardian of the energy of the space within the walls. It's the walls as well, but it's the space within the walls, right? The guardian energy personality. This is like the guardian spirit of, or guardian angel for us. We have a, somebody, one at least, that looks over us. Most of us have more than one. And houses have the same thing, and sacred sites have exactly the same thing. So you can go to an ancient sacred site and ask to speak to the guardian energy personality of that sacred site. You could go to the pyramids of Giza. I couldn't remember what the main one was called. The pyramids at Giza, and ask to speak to the guardian of the site there. You could go to Stonehenge and ask to speak to the guardian energy there. You can go to any little sacred site that you find, no matter which country you're in, and ask to speak to the guardian energy. They will give you a yes or a no, whether they're willing to talk to you or not. And then you literally just have a conversation. The third guardian aspect is the spirit of place. And that is the spirit of the land. So the spirit of place is the spirit of the land. The spirit of the land that has seen so much over the eons exists. And that can be spoken to. The spirit of the house that has been there for the length that it has been built can be spoken to. But the really interesting one, and the one that really is the most communicative and is the most helpful, is that one that is the spirit of the space within, the guardian energy personality of the house. Because they are guardians, they conduct guardianship, they are in charge of, they are in control of, they have influence upon. That's a better way of putting it. They have influence upon, yeah, I know, the energies that flow through that space to which they are assigned as guardian. That does not mean to say they have influence directly upon our behavior, for example, because we are supposed to be guardians in the physical realm of a space. Yeah. So, and look how we neglect that, you know, most of us. So you can interact, and by interacting, then you're really bringing harmony. You're starting to harmonize the space just instantly by communicating with that guardian energy personality. Yes, it is, JF. Yes, exactly. That's if you speak to the house, excuse me, if you speak to the house, to the fabric of the house, to the physical aspect of the house, then you can ask it questions about the roof, the windows, you know, the fabric that it's made from. So, for example, asbestos, you know, 1960s sort of buildings quite often had asbestos in them somewhere along the line. Is it a problem? You can ask the spirit of the house that if you want. You know, obviously you can get it backed up by getting a surveyor in, but that's going to cost you money and blah de blah. Whereas you can ask and you know, intuitively find out the information. So if you speak to the spirit of a house, you're going to get that sort of information. If you speak to the spirit of the land, then you're going to get the impressions of what the spirit of the land, what the land itself, what that part of the land thinks about or feels about what's going on upon its surface. Now, very often in the house healing, we're talking to spirit of the land, and if the spirit of land has anything to say, then it's going to be a detrimental thing, because in the house healing work, we're trying to compile a list of what the detrimental effects are upon the people living in the space. So often the spirit of land is saying, well, I don't understand what's going on upstairs. Why are they doing this? What, you know, when did they build all this city across me? And why is this why I, you know, whatever it is. So you just go with it. Right. Well, David, actually, what you'll find is that there is a tad. Thanks, Dixie. Yeah, that's a good one. It's true, though. You know, it's a really good idea. David, back to you. Sorry. Are they at all resistant? Well, you know what? I think what you're probably picking up on, and the reason that you're asking the question, is more about the elemental aspect of energy. So the elementals are everywhere, especially in nature, but equally in a house, you know, or a farmyard or somewhere like that. You're going to get a lot of elementals coming in off the fields, following the farmer back, following the dogs as well, or anything like that, or even the herd of cows or whatever. But so elementals are everywhere: earth, air, fire, water elementals, and they, for sure, are sometimes very reluctant to talk to human beings because of how we have and how we do treat nature. But again, they pick up on the individual. So although they may be quite cautious to start with, if you're approaching them with respect and with the right intent, I mean, they see right through us. You know, they see our truth, and therefore they're most often very willing to play and to interact. And you can douse and have those conversations with elementals too. Just a little word of warning with elementals: you need to be a little bit careful. They can be a bit cheeky. They can be a bit trickster-like. So just be a little bit cautious. But most of them are absolutely fine, or they won't even bother talking to you. They'll just ignore you, because that's something else they do as well. So, but sometimes, you know, I think in the old days, when we were far more connected to nature and to the earth, there was far more interaction on a day-to-day basis, a natural assumption about nature spirits, about elementals, and people, of course, were living in the rural landscape. You know, there wasn't the urban concentrations that there are now, and so we were more in harmony with elementals anyway. So that's the way it goes. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's really how a place, if you're in alignment with it, that's how it should feel, Billy, is it should really give you a hug and give you that feeling of peace. Unfortunately, what happens a lot is that we get very out of sync with houses, with places, and even when we go out and buy them in the first place, when we choose a house, we might be kind of used to be you know, self-sabotage. You know, a lot of us sort of self-sabotage unintentionally, it's unconscious. These are just behavioral things that we've developed over the years. And if we're in that particular mindset, in that energy level, when we buy a house, then we can buy a house that's going to do us, beat us up as well. Not intentionally. The house doesn't do it on purpose, but it's just us being so out of sync with the way it feels. We think, oh yeah, okay, this will do. And in you walk, and then you get all sorts of problems. I mean, this is not uncommon with the house healing stuff that I talk about. Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah. You're that sensitive. I know, Billy. Well, not I know, but I mean, I can see that you are from your previous comments as well. So, to be fear and house clearing, this was one of my second options here. Actually, Nathan, this comes back round to the stuff that we were discussing earlier on. Okay, so let's just draw a line under what we've talked about so far. We're going to move on a little bit and just talk about something that everybody should really be aware of this, but some people get really, really spooked by. And this is the idea, this is the notion of attachments, energy attachments that we can pick up, or we can develop, we can kind of grow them ourselves if we're not careful. And anybody that does a bit of house clearing work as a bit of a hobby, as part of helping other people, or as part of a self-development group, should really understand a little bit about attachments and about the way that you have to be careful interacting with the different types being, and obviously we haven't got time to go into this in great detail, but different types being, broadly speaking, the sort of attachment that is just like a dark energy blob in an auric field. So we've all got the auric field, and we can, Nancy, I'll come back to that one in a second, remind me if I don't. We can all pick up these little black blobs of energy. We call them black blobs because they're pretty insignificant, but they can add to a feeling of melancholia. They can add to a feeling of depression, well, not deep depression, because that's something else we'll talk about in a second, but they can add to confusion as well. And it's just general mind fog. We need to be a bit careful about how broad a sort of palette of emotions we're spreading with this, but strange thing to say, but what I mean is we need to be a bit careful about not kind of encompassing every aspect of human emotion and blaming these little black blobs of attachment. But these are like going for a walk in the countryside and picking up like little sticky buds on your trousers or on your pants as you're walking through the forest, walking through the undergrowth. So because you pick these up, highly sensitive people in particular will pick up a lot of this stuff as soon as they walk through the mall, the shopping mall, or go out and encounter other people, because everybody's got this stuff and it's swirling around everybody all the time. And it doesn't mean to say that these are created by the individual in which you find them. So, this is why I point a lot of people at the chakra protection exercise, because that is a cleansing exercise as well as a protection thing. Okay. So it's good to do that every day or whatever, especially if you're out at work, or if you're a therapist and working closely with people. It's really important to actually keep your aura clean and protected, because if you're in close working, like in a dentist thing, or even a therapist scenario, one-to-one, where you're actually trying to tune into the person and understand what the problem is, then you're going to pick up some of these black blobs and take them home with you, unless you keep your energy clear. You're probably going to pick them up anyway, but you just need to clear them out again. So that's the black blobs. Okay, yeah, that's it. Right. Yes, that's right. Yes. Okay, so yeah, but that sensitivity is part of you. It's part of your artistic work, David. That's the whole point. Right, okay, so Nathan, describing yourself as Jackie Cusack. Yeah, morning, Brad. Hiya. Yeah, good man. While you drive, well, steady. So, Nathan, do attachments target people who are perhaps mentally challenged or have depression, for example? This is the second type of attachment, which is more powerful, got more strength to it, got more savvy to it. And this is human manifested forms. So this can be a human manifested thought form or a human manifested life form. Now, a thought form, yeah, exactly, Digsy, that's it. Oh yeah, Nancy, yep, hang on, okay. Sorry. Right, before we lose Nancy's question, let me just come back to that. Do you think spirit might abandon a house because there are just too many people in an urban area? No, spirit doesn't get, no, it doesn't. A house doesn't get abandoned by the management ever. It doesn't get left. If you're thinking about your own experience, what might be happening is that actually there's so much disconnection, or there's so many energy aspects that are just making it feel as though it's been left abandoned. Maybe. Let's come back to yeah, that's fine. Energy vampires. You see, this is it exactly, Billy, because thought forms are vampire-like, as are life forms. The only real difference between a thought form, a human manifested thought form, and a human manifested life form, excuse me, they've gone all there, is the ability to move around and to have some kind of sentience, right? Because a life form is called a life form because it will choose, it will make decisions about where it wants to go. So a thought form is, let's take a classic example, guilt, for example, right? Strong feelings of guilt can create, over time, a little kind of energy packet in the aura, blah, 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 sits there for years and years. But every time the person is feeling guilty or is doing things that makes it feel guilty, and that could be associated with sex, or it could be associated with thieving, could be associated just with or lying, could be any of these things that are in contradiction to some kind of personal values, list of values, but guilt comes up. So, clearly religion has quite a lot to answer for in this respect. But so this little energy form that has started off as a little black blob will, if given enough energy similar to it, then start to develop a thought form. It becomes a thought form, which actually starts to put the thoughts back into the host. So you get this cycle because it wants to be fed. It's like a baby going, feed me, I want, or like, the Little Shop of Horrors, feed me. So it's a cycle going on. And then when it gets enough energy, it actually can detach. And that's when it's a life form, and it will go and seek somebody else that has perhaps got an even more powerful guilt complex already. It'll go out and find it. So although this sounds quite kind of scary, think of it more like the natural world, where you've got aspects of things wandering to find food. It's just a natural phenomena, which obviously we put down to, being dark and scary, because it's in the world that we don't understand. It's in the hidden world. And of course it affects, this is where, Nathan, it can affect people that are open to being susceptible or already mentally troubled. Because if somebody is going through a difficult situation mentally anyway, quite often they're caused by thought forms in some respect anyway. But if they're open, if they're then vulnerable, then a lot of other stuff can go in and cause more havoc. So you just need to be careful. But none of this stuff is insurmountable, and none of these aspects that we've talked about, the black blobs, the thought forms and the life forms, none of those are really pose a great threat in terms of pushing them on, clearing them on, dissolving them, asking the management to cleanse and protect, to clear it away. You want to know how to do it. What you do is you basically sit in meditation. You do all the protection that we've talked about all the time. You do all the protection that we've talked about all the time. You don't ever do this without doing protection. And you ask for something like the ultra fine meshed net of light and love, which is like an angelic net. I mean, other people refer to it as with other names, but usually it is like, even in shamanic terms, it's like a really, really fine mesh that is just pulled through a person, a place, with the intention of taking away specific detrimental energies. And you just watch in your own mind's eyes. You sit there and meditate, and you've asked that, and the angels will carry that through, and they will clear it away. They'll clear it away and wrap it all up and take it away. Or you use for thought forms and life forms, you can use like a reflective box. It's not a very nice thing, but you can use that, and it's kind of, I don't know where the idea comes from, but it works. So you use a reflective box that's got mirrors on the inside, and you start off with it massively big around a house, enclose it around a space, and you'll soon find that you're following something. Once that entity is caught in the box, it has a choice of either basically traveling up a tube to the light, or it will get squashed into non-existence by the box still compressing. It's not a very nice idea, but you know, that's one that works, so it works. Okay, let's come back. What do we got? Much better way to describe it, like Tim was talking about, and description picking up the negative flow day-to-day. So we get some of these black blobs every day just by being around other people, so everyone is exchanging attachments, everyone. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, yes, indeed. That's exactly it. It is important, yeah. Yeah. Likewise. So Spirit and Earth too. Pacification. Hi. Does a house know if it's genuinely loved as opposed to being used? Yeah. The house will respond. The energy in it will. Okay, hang on. I'll come on to Nancy's question in a sec. The energy in it will respond to that love. Okay. Don't understand what you're saying. Isn't Spirit there to help and protect? Why are there blobs that can grow and attach to people? Well, blobs. Okay, so the black blobs are things that we as human beings have created. So, anger, greed, jealousy, hatred, envy, all of these negative emotions, if we're sitting with them for a long time, if we're the sort of person that displays those emotions, which I'm sure you're not, Nancy, then they will develop. A little bit of black energy just forms around. It's like dust gathering in the cosmos. It just forms around, stays in the aura. You walk down the street, somebody else will brush past that, like brushing past the seeds on a hedge or some grasses. They'll be picked up by another person just by that motion of passing by. If it's appropriate, it just happens. It's just energy. You know, we're all energy, just shifting and being interchanged all the time. With the thought forms and the life forms, the thought form is just a more intense version of the black blob. So if it hasn't fallen off and gone to somebody else, then it will just continue to grow as more and more hate, envy, jealousy, rage, all of this stuff goes into the black blob. It develops. It's the law of nature. It grows. Things grow. It's a parasite. It's a parasitic. It's an energy parasite. And this is why Billy is referring to the book where it's talked about vampire energies, because the notion of was it Bram Stoker, wasn't it, who wrote Dracula as a vampire? The notion that something would go and take energy from something else, that's vampire-like. So that's why they're quite often referred to as vampire energies. Now, you also hear the same phrase being referred to other people in the physical realm, in the human emotional realm. You can get some friends, for example, they don't know they're doing it. They can just be incredibly draining just because they need so much of your energy. They are literally emotionally draining. As emotionally draining is slightly different to the energy draining. Does that make a bit more sense, Nancy? And you're reading your book, we're a little confused by the word form, Billy. Is the author writing it on our behalf? I'm confused if he's quoting you. I don't understand the question there, Billy. No, that's right, exactly. That your second comment, Billy. Yeah, you're not food for vampires, no. Hello, Super Diagoru. Doused yesterday and the first time I discovered you 3 minutes ago. Great. Pendulum says there are negative entities in your house. They are influencing the result. Well, possibly so, but if you're new to dowsing, then it may not be. Don't get spooked by it. I think if you drop me hello, Jenny. Hi. If you drop me a line, Super, drop me a line using the contact form on my website and we can go through that for you. Billy, what now? So don't forget my book, the book Spirit and Earth, was written by two people, me and Adrian. So there are two voices in that in terms of author. Okay, so not sure whether, yeah, well, indeed, Nancy. Okay, but as long as you understand a little bit more, that's fine. So Billy, going back to that, yes, Spirit and Earth, it's written by me and Adrian. And what you'll feel, especially as you're sensitive and intelligent, is that there are two voices coming through in the book. I'm not quite sure what you mean though by in terms of is it the author, because we certainly wrote it. So see if you can just clarify quickly, and I'll answer that one for you. So Nathan, the thing is, right, the biggest thing with all of these energy entities, you know, there you go, I've used the word entity. It's a word that I don't like to use very much, because as soon as we start to mention entity, then as soon as we use the word, people get very, very spooked by that particular word, which is why I prefer to use the word attachments. And also attachments really is far less predatory than the suggestion of entity. But the thing with entities is that if you've got one that is prone to create fear, the worst thing that the individual person can do that is affected by it is be fearful, because that just chucks a whole lot of more energy into that entity. So what I was trying to get at this morning is that the most important thing, you see, this is again why it's not a great perspective to be kind of excited by the idea of attachments and stuff. Although they happen, you know, just allow these things to come to you, which I know you're doing. I'm not telling you off. It just sounds like a bloody silly thing to say. But I think some people, and it's not you, Nathan, some people do just get really excited by the idea of, oh, the spirits, let's go ghost hunting, let's go ghost busting. And that's not what it's about at all. Because if you go wandering in with your size 9s into a space that actually has got some pretty unpleasant attachments in it, then if you then get spooked, or if these people then get spooked, then actually they just feed this thing, and it just makes it more problematic for whoever is living in that space or trying to live in that space. And it can be problematic for the people that go on wandering in with their size 9s, because, you know, some of these more advanced attachments are not stupid, and they act as parasites. So some people that are not respectful of this sort of subtle energy can be quite badly affected by it, which is why I always say protection, do the protection exercise. Okay, sorry, Billy, let's have a quick look through here again. Where are we going now? Right, how to find out if someone is a narcissist. Ask them for help. If they're a narcissist, they want you to help them, but they won't help you. Okay. Sorry, phrasing it badly, just dyslexia fail. Just like a conversation here, I'd get confused if it was you or him speaking. Oh, I see. Okay, Nathan, good. I'm glad to get that. Billy, okay, so whether it's me or Adrian speaking is really what you're getting at, Billy, is it? I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for the answer, because I want to clarify this. I don't want Billy to go away to be and be confused. Yes. Okay. Fine. Okay. Well, the easy way is that a lot of the more scientifically orientated stuff is me. A lot of the stuff on elementals is Adrian speaking. The stuff about the sacred site, about the thing on the hillside, is basically Adrian thinking. But most 99% of what Adrian says, I agree with in that book. So hopefully you just should still feel as though you're getting a consistent message, because all that book was built upon the workshops that he and I did together. So it should flow, and I'm hoping that it kind of does. But, you know, I don't know. I haven't read the whole thing from cover to end, and it's really difficult to evaluate your own stuff. Right, let's just plow on a little bit. We've got sort of 7-10 minutes or so left. Right, Nathan, we've done you. Okay, now a couple of questions from the basics of dowsing. Let's go right back and yeah, okay, Dixie, that's an interesting question. Okay, that's okay, Billy. So Dixie, do you think it's possible for attachments to pass through contact over the internet? Well, yeah, but they're yeah. I mean, the bottom line is yeah, because everything's energy. That's the short answer. Okay, thanks, JF. I won't lose sleep over it. Digsy, everything's energy, but you see, if you practice, you will learn to identify within yourself the very subtle nuances of information that you feel instantly as soon as you look at a photograph. Now, it's a bit harder to do it with the internet on Google and stuff, but if you actually have a photograph of somebody, and this is what I do a lot with my workshops when I have people coming to me that want to explore this connection more, is that we take a photograph and you just sit with it and meditate with it, but look at the photograph and you get a heck of a lot of information about the person from that photograph, excuse me. Now, can an attachment be picked up through that process? Well, because you're tuning in to the person, there's going to be an aspect of the energy that comes through. It might not be the full-blown, full, here's the attachment, here's a thoughtful flash. You're not necessarily going to get walloped by it, but you might get an aspect of that. And that's you'll probably pick that up as a headache, like a really sharp instant headache, like, whoa, hang on. And then if that is the case, you just put your protection in, wipe that away, push that away. You don't need that. You don't need that. Just remember that you're in control of your energy field and your feelings and your emotions, which are influenced from that energy field. And this is why it's really important to know yourself, know the way that you respond yourself to situations, because when you get feelings that you think, oh, hang on, where did that come from? Or you get really angry suddenly for no reason at all. You may be influenced by some kind of little attachment that can just be cleared, but you can choose just to clear that stuff away. It's not necessary to hang on to it. You don't need it. You only want to be hanging on to energy that's, I mean, we all do. We all want to just be hanging on to energy that is life affirming and is in balance. Pacification, neglected for a long time and slowly die and feel that it wants to live and help you with this. Yeah, well, it probably will. Yeah, pacification. I think you might have missed the beginning of this live stream. Have a look at the beginning in replay when it gets up there. Hello, Lady K. Oh, we're going to be late. Oh, you're an hour. No, you see, I tried to tell you we're an hour. We're about to close off, Lady K. So you need to be an hour earlier, which I know is in. Oh, okay, well done. Good for you. Try to be an hour. If you want to catch the whole thing, Lady K, try to be an hour earlier, but I know it's early where you are. JF, is that good? No, you are clearing away detrimental attachments. You're asking for anything that is detrimental, anything that you have picked up during the day, or if you do this first thing in the morning, you cleanse and protect. That chakra protection exercise is an activity of cleansing and protecting. So you're cleansing, pushing out anything detrimental that you may have picked up from any time in your life up to that point. You're cleansing and protecting at a subatomic level. You're pushing it out, and that, every time you do it, every day or every couple of times a day, pushing that stuff out, and you can sometimes become aware of little black stuff kind of being pushed out to the outer edges of your auric field, where really you want to just imagine it's then at the very end of that exercise wiped away by that white light going through. It's just taken away, completely taken away. Yeah, it's 8:27 exactly. So yeah, you're just woken up, bless you. Yeah, I hope you got the cuppa there for you. So JF, yeah. So just remember, dowsing or any energy work is all about where you place your intention. So as I said earlier on, when we're doing house healing work, we're always looking for the detrimental aspects. So we're looking for the detrimental earth energy lines or the detrimental earth energy spirals or the detrimental underground water flows. There will be many, many, many other positive and earth energy lines, earth energy spirals, underground water flows sometimes within a building or affecting a building, but we don't look for those because there is no need to. We're looking for things that will improve the life of the people living in the building. So yes, exactly. You can feel the detrimental stuff. I can sometimes come across something when I'm finding it with a floor plan, I can actually feel quite sick. So it's physical response. I don't necessarily know what it is that I'm detecting, but sometimes if it's quite a nasty thing, then I can feel quite sick with it. It only lasts for a moment, only lasts for a fraction of a second. It's enough to write it down, find out what the detrimental value is, move on. Doesn't come in, doesn't stay with me. And that's the whole point as a house healer, is that that's the exercise, that's the detachment. You don't go in and stick with it. You don't roll up your sleeves and dive in. You stay detached from it. You're connected enough to be aware, but you're not diving into it or allowing it to come to you. Yeah, we keep the good stuff. We keep the good stuff. That's it. That's the bottom line. You want the good stuff. You want the good stuff. And the good stuff is created through balance. It's not about, if you've got aspects of yourself that you're not comfortable with or you don't think are very positive attributes, in terms of your character. Let's just take this example of sudden eruptions of anger. I'm not saying, JF, that you're applicable to this, but I've been subject to this in the past, right? And it's not an aspect of character. And I know where I get it from as well, genetically speaking, but it's not an aspect of character that is very nice. So it's not about trying to eliminate in all possible circumstances that anger. It's about understanding oneself to evaluate why does X and Y and Z circumstance make me angry or used to make me angry, evaluating what that is, usually tracing back to the origin of that anger, the original point in my life at 7 or 5 or 4 where X happened, and then you deal with that. That's the healing. But but in that healing, you are balancing that aspect of self with the good stuff, right? So it's not about chastising yourself and trying to just shovel out all the bad stuff. You've got to kind of work on it, if that makes sense, JF, hopefully. Yes, we are. Yes, indeed, Billy. Yes. Yes, exactly. So, Lady K, you in particular, for example, really do need. I know you do a lot of protection, but just keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on it. Good. Thanks, JF. Okie doke. Any last questions? Yes. Well done, Joe. Yes. Do you know what? I don't ever take what I say to be condescending. It really isn't meant to be condescending. And sometimes I hear myself say things. It's like, oh, jeepers, that just sounds so stupid. So yeah, but cool, really good. Last questions, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. It's been nice having you all here again. Cheers, Nathan. Thank you, David. Very nice. Well, 3:30 is the regular one, Billy. So that's what we're hoping for. Summer, thanks, lovely. Mondays 3:30 British summertime. Good to join. Good to have you here, Jenny. Thanks, LAS. Goodbye. Take care. Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, your gargoyle's great. Actually, I haven't seen him, but yeah, and your cat. Cheers, Dixie. Talk soon. Yeah, you get some kip. Thanks, Nancy. Take care. Cool. Bye. Going now. Take care. See you all. Goodbye.